Hay always called me the dumb one. On my sister's graduation day, while she smiled with a full ride to Harvard, a brand new Tesla, and a $15 million mansion waiting for her, I quietly sat at the back, invisible as always. No one noticed me. No one cared. Until a stranger appeared, placing a white envelope in my hands. He leaned close and whispered, "Now is the time to show them who you truly are." Everything I thought I knew about my family, about myself, was about to change. My parents decided who I was long before I ever understood what deciding meant. In our house, identity wasn't something you discovered. It was something you were assigned. Ava was the bright one. The gift. The proof that my parents had done something right. I was the remainder. The margin note. The one they lowered their expectations for so early that I grew up believing expectation itself was a luxury I didn't deserve. They never said it outright at first. Not when I was very young. But children don't need full sentences to understand disappointment. Tone does the job just fine. The sighs. The glances. The way conversations shifted whenever I entered the room. I learned early that silence was safer than curiosity. The house I grew up in was enormous, but it never felt warm. 6 bedrooms. Marble floors so polished they reflected your feet. A staircase that curved like it belonged in a magazine. Everything about that house said success, except for the people inside it. Sound echoed there. Laughter felt distant. Even arguments were measured, strategic. My parents didn't yell. They evaluated. One Sunday morning when I was 6, I sat at the dining table watching Ava recite multiplication tables from a laminated worksheet. 6 times 9? My father asked. 54, Ava said instantly. He smiled, wide, proud, satisfied. The kind of smile that says this is mine. And 7 times 8? 56. He laughed, clapped his hands once. Brilliant. Then his eyes slid toward me. Teresa, he said. Your turn. 7 times 8. I froze. Numbers never stayed still in my head. They rearranged themselves when I wasn't looking. I could understand concepts, shapes, connections, patterns, but recall felt slippery, unreliable. I stared at the table. At the grain of the wood. At my fingers twisting together. I don't know. Silence. My mother took a sip of coffee without looking up. Don't push her, she said calmly. You know she's the dumb one. They laughed. Not mockingly. Not angrily. Just comfortably. Like they had named a chair or a lamp. That word, dumb, didn't hurt because it was loud. It hurt because it was final. Something inside me closed that day. Like a door locking itself. After that, everything made sense in a cruel, orderly way. Why Ava got praise for things I was scolded for. Why her mistakes were experiments, and mine were proof. Why my report cards were acceptable, while hers were framed. When Ava cried, my parents worried. When I cried, they grew impatient. She's sensitive, my mother would say. Another weakness. At dinner parties, my parents introduced Ava with pride. This is our daughter Ava. She's exceptional. Then they'd glance at me. And this is Teresa. Nothing more. I learned to smile politely. To nod. To disappear into corners. By middle school, the gap between Ava and me had become institutional. Ava attended private academies with tuition higher than some people's annual salaries. She had tutors for every subject, SAT prep courses before she even needed them, mentors who spoke to her about legacy and influence. I attended public school. Not because my parents couldn't afford better, but because they didn't believe it would matter. She'll plateau anyway, my father once said behind closed doors. No point overspending. When reading became difficult, when letters swapped places and paragraphs refused to settle, I struggled in silence for months. I thought maybe I was lazy. Or broken. One afternoon, I finally gathered the courage to speak. My mother was in the living room flipping through an interior design magazine. The room smelled faintly of lavender and polish. "I think something's wrong," I said softly. She looked up, mildly annoyed. "What now?" I read, "But it doesn't stick. I think I might need help. Testing, maybe." She studied me the way one might inspect a cracked plate. "Teresa," she said slowly, "we can't pour resources into something with no return." I nodded. I told myself that made sense. That night, I cried quietly into my pillow, careful not to make noise. Even then, I understood that tears were a kind of failure. So I adapted. I learned how to survive invisibly. I stopped raising my hand in class. Stopped asking questions. Stopped expecting recognition. Instead, I listened. I recorded lectures and replayed them at night. I drew flowcharts instead of notes. I broke ideas into systems. Inputs, outputs, relationships. Teachers thought I was odd. Students thought I was quiet. No one thought I was dangerous. That suited me. The only place I ever felt understood was with my grandmother, Margaret Holloway. She lived in a modest brownstone far from my parents' world of appearances. Her house smelled like tea, old books, and rain. It felt lived in. Every other Sunday, she picked me up herself. We'd sit at her small kitchen table, sunlight cutting across the wood, papers spread everywhere. She never asked me to explain myself. She just watched. "You don't think in straight lines," she said once, observing my sketches. "You think in structures." I frowned. "Is that bad?" She smiled. "It's rare. Grandma Margaret built Holloway Industries from nothing. My father liked to say he expanded it. The truth was, he inherited it. Factories, contracts, influence. Her portrait hung in our hallway at home. At night, I sometimes stood before it, searching her painted eyes. "Do you see me?" I would whisper. She did. I just didn't know how deeply. As Ava grew older, my parents spoke of her future the way investors discuss assets. "She's our legacy," my father said proudly. "She'll take the company further than we ever could," my mother added. No one asked what I wanted. No one needed to. By the time Ava reached her final year of school, the outcome felt inevitable. Harvard. Full ride. Standing ovations. Her graduation wasn't planned as a family event. It was planned as a spectacle. The Meridian Grand Hall glittered that night. Chandeliers. String quartets. 400 guests. I arrived alone. My dress was simple. Navy blue. Bought on sale. An usher led me to a table near the back. My phone buzzed. "Mom. Sit quietly. Tonight is Ava's moment." The stage lights dimmed. Ava's face filled the massive screen. Full ride. Harvard Law. The applause was thunderous. When my father stepped up to the podium, he raised his glass. "Tonight, we celebrate excellence." Applause. My daughter Ava has achieved what few ever will. Cheers. And because excellence deserves recognition. My chest tightened. "I want to make this clear," he continued. "Ava will inherit everything. The house. The company. The trust." Standing ovation. "And Teresa," he added, glancing briefly toward the back, "will find her own path." Polite laughter followed. I didn't move. I didn't cry. That's when I noticed the man near the exit. Tall. Silver-haired. Watching me. He approached, placed a white envelope on the table, and whispered, "Now is the time to show them who you truly are." Then he disappeared. I stared at the envelope. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I felt powerful. I didn't open the envelope that night. Not because I wasn't curious, but because curiosity had betrayed me my entire life. Curiosity had made me ask questions my parents didn't want to answer. Curiosity had made me hope for fairness that never came. Curiosity had taught me disappointment before it taught me truth. So when the man placed the envelope in my hand and whispered, "Now is the time to show them who you truly are," I didn't tear it open like a movie scene. I did something quieter. I folded it carefully, placed it in my bag, stood up, and walked out of the Meridian Grand Hall while applause still thundered behind me. No one noticed. No one ever did. The air outside was cold and clean, carrying the distant hum of traffic and the muffled echo of celebration through glass walls. The building glowed behind me like a palace of light and noise, a world where I had never belonged. I walked slowly, not because I was lost, but because I was thinking, because something inside me felt different, not excited, not scared, not angry, clear. For the first time in my life, I felt calm in a way that wasn't resignation. At home, the house was alive with voices, laughter, champagne glasses, congratulations. Ava's voice cut through everything, bright, confident, untouchable. I slipped past the living room and went straight upstairs, locked my door, sat on the edge of my bed. Only then did I take out the envelope. It was thick, heavy. The paper was expensive, textured, heavy stock, deliberate. Whoever prepared it didn't intend it to be temporary. Inside were documents. Not letters. Not notes. Legal documents. Formal. Structured. Precise. At the top of the first page, a name froze my breath in my chest. Margaret Holloway. My grandmother. The only person who had ever truly seen me. My fingers tightened. I read slowly, not because I didn't understand, but because I needed to absorb. A private trust. Established years ago. Not recently. Not impulsively. Not emotionally. Deliberately. The beneficiary. Teresa Holloway. Not Ava. Not shared. Me. I flipped through the pages. Majority ownership in Holloway Industries. Dispersed through layered holdings and corporate shells. Properties registered under subsidiaries. Accounts in trusts. Funds. Assets. Control. Power. Real power. Not symbolic. Not honorary. Not decorative. Structural. At the bottom of the final page was a handwritten letter. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Firm. Precise. Controlled. Teresa. If you're reading this, then your parents have finally shown the world who they believe you are. They always mistook quiet for weakness. Observation for confusion. Patience for incompetence. I never did. The world belongs to those who learn before they speak. Now it's your turn. Grandma. I sat completely still. No tears. No shaking. Just a strange sense of recognition. Like a lock clicking open inside me. That night, I didn't sleep. Not from excitement, but from reprocessing my entire life. Every insult. Every dismissal. Every humiliation. Every silence. All of it restructured itself in my mind. Not as damage. As training. The next morning, my phone rang. Private number. "Miss Holloway," a calm voice said. "My name is Daniel Price. I was Margaret Holloway's attorney. The man from the graduation. We need to meet," he said. "There are legal matters that require careful handling." We met that afternoon. His office wasn't flashy. No gold plaques. No prestige branding. Just efficiency. Quiet competence. Neutral colors. Clean lines. Control without display. He explained everything. My grandmother had never trusted my parents with unilateral power. She had watched Ava be cultivated and me be dismissed. She had seen how favoritism became cruelty disguised as realism. She believed Ava would be obvious, Daniel said. And that obvious people are predictable. She believed you would be invisible, he continued. And that invisible people learn. The trust had conditions. It would activate only after my father publicly declared inheritance, explicitly excluding me. She anticipated the humiliation, Daniel said gently. She needed proof of intent. Even in death, my grandmother was methodical, strategic, controlled. I didn't confront my parents. I didn't argue. I didn't reveal anything. I waited. Because power isn't loud. It's precise. 2 weeks later, Holloway Industries held its quarterly board meeting. I arrived early. The building was glass and steel, modern, confident, untouchable. Inside, the boardroom buzzed with power. Executives in tailored suits. Investors with practiced smiles. Advisors who spoke in low tones. At the head of the table sat Ava, already acting like she owned the space. My father sat beside her. When I entered, conversations stopped. My father frowned. "Why are you here?" "I'm attending the meeting," I said calmly. "This is a board-only session," Ava snapped. "I know." Daniel entered behind me. "I represent Teresa Holloway," he said evenly. "Majority shareholder." Silence. Not shock. Not chaos. Silence. The kind that happens when reality changes. My father laughed once. Sharp, forced. "That's absurd." Daniel placed the documents on the table. One by one, board members read. Faces shifted. Eyes lifted. Whispers spread. "This isn't possible," Ava said, her voice tight. "It is," Daniel replied calmly. I spoke. "My grandmother structured the trust years ago." My father's face went pale. The meeting unraveled slowly. Not dramatically. Administratively. Votes recalculated. Shares verified. Authority reassigned. Control redistributed. Power didn't fall. It transferred. I was appointed interim chair. Not by applause. By consensus. By law. By structure. No shouting. No chaos. Just consequences. The fallout came later. In private. My mother cried. "This will destroy the family," she said. I looked at her. "You destroyed it when you decided I didn't matter." My father tried anger. "You're betraying us." I answered quietly. "You taught me how." Ava tried rage. "You're stealing my life." I met her eyes. "You were given one. I was ignored long enough to build mine." She had never believed in me. That was her mistake. I didn't remove them violently. I didn't humiliate them publicly. I did something worse. I made them irrelevant. Positions reassigned. Authority removed. Influence neutralized. They remained, but powerless. Watching. Existing inside a system they no longer controlled. Fair. Legal. Final. The media narrative came later. Headlines about unexpected restructuring. Quiet transition of leadership. Strategic reorganization. No scandals. No explosions. Just reality changing hands. I moved into my grandmother's brownstone. The small kitchen. The worn table. The sunlight through the windows. Some nights, I sat alone and let the silence exist. Not empty silence. Full silence. Peaceful silence. I wasn't the dumb one. I wasn't the slow one. I wasn't the mistake. I was the one who learned without being seen. The one who adapted. The one who watched. The one who waited. And when the time came, I didn't need revenge. I didn't need humiliation. I didn't need noise. I had something stronger. Control. Truth. Structure. Legacy. Some people conquer with force. Others conquer with patience. And the most dangerous ones are the ones you never notice until they're already in control. Moral lessons. This story teaches us that true strength often comes from being underestimated, and that patience, preparation, and quiet resilience can turn a lifetime of doubt into triumph. Family ties don't guarantee loyalty, and justice is about reclaiming what's right, not seeking revenge. Most importantly, your worth is never defined by others' opinions. It's revealed in the courage to stand up for yourself and act with integrity, even when the world counts you out.